Hello, and welcome to the Murder House Radio Show. I'm your host, X. On this show, we will be covering serial killers, mass shooters, disappearances, true crime, and the most deplorable things in people in history. All that good, dark stuff. The Murder House Radio Show will be a radio show / podcast. I'll be uploading videos every Friday at 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Once you hit the subscribe button, hit the bell button, and select all to get all notifications. If you're viewing on YouTube, that is. And hit follow if you're listening on a podcasting platform. So sit down, get comfortable, grab some coffee or whatever your preferred beverage is, turn off the lights, and enjoy the show. Hey guys, thanks for sticking around. Hasn't been a broadcast or upload in a very long time. I kind of lost interest, but now I'm back. But yeah, without any further ado, let's get into today's case. Today's video will be on the Sumerton man. Now, usually I'd put a picture here, but it's just a picture of a dead guy. The Sumerton man was an unidentified man whose body was found on December 1st, 1948, on the beach at Sumerton Park, a suburb of Adelaide, South Australia. The case is also known after the Persian phrase "Tamam shud," meaning is over or is finished, which was printed on a scrap piece of paper found months later in the fob pocket of the man's trousers. The scrap had been torn from the final page of a copy of Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, authored by a 12th century poet, Omar Khayyam. After finding said piece of paper, the police were actually able to locate the book the page was torn from. On the inside back cover, detectives read through indentations left from the previous handwriting. A local telephone number, another unidentified name, and a text that resembled coded message. The text has not been deciphered or interpreted in any way that satisfies authorities on the case. Just the Australian Zodiac killer, eh? The case has been considered, since the early stages of police investigation, one of Australia's most profound mysteries. That's an unsolved one. There has been intense speculation ever since regarding the identity of the victim, the cause of his death, and the events leading up to it. Public interest in the case remains significant for several reasons. The death occurred at a time of heightened international tensions following the beginning of the Cold War. Could he be a spy? Very possible. Western versus Eastern. The apparent involvement of a secret code, the possible use of an undetectable poison, very well could be if they couldn't find the cause of death, and the inability of authorities to identify the dead man. Well, if he was a secret agent, they're good at disappearing other secret agents, and the agencies themselves are good at wiping their hands of their own secret agents. On July 26, 2022, Adeline University professor Derek Abbott, in association with genealogist Colin M. Fitzpatrick, claimed to have identified the man as Carl Charles Weeb, an electrical engineer and instrument maker born in 1905, based on genetic genealogy from DNA on the man's hair. South Australian Police and Forensic Science South Australia have not verified the result, but South Australian Police said they were cautiously optimistic about it. Makes sense after that amount of time, but things have come a very long way since the 1940s. Very long way. And it is crazy what they can do with all that DNA testing and whatnot, so who knows? Who knows how accurate it could be. But since we covered some of the beginning and the bare basics of the case, let's get into some deeper details. So the discoveration of the body on December 1st, 1948, at 6:30 a.m., the police were contacted after the body of a man was discovered on Sumerton Park Beach near Glengale, about 11 kilometers southwest of Adelaide, Australia. The man was found lying in the sand across from the crippled children's home, which was on the corner of the Esplanade and Brickford Terrace. He was laying back with his head resting against the sea wall, with his legs extended and his feet crossed. It was believed the man had died while sleeping. An unlit cigarette was on the right collar of his coat. A search of his pockets revealed an unused second-class rail ticket from Adelaide to Henley Beach, a bus ticket from the city that may not have been used, a narrow aluminum comb that had been manufactured in America, a half-empty pack of juicy fruit chewing gum. Gotta have that juicy fruit. An Army Club cigarette packet, which contained 7 cigarettes of a different brand, Kensitas, and a quarter-full box of Bryant and May matches. Witnesses who came forward said that on the evening of the 30th of November, they had seen an individual resembling the dead man laying on his back in the same spot where the corpse was found. Interesting. A couple who saw him around 7 p.m. noticed that they saw him extend his right arm to its fullest extent and then drop it limply. So maybe he was already dying. Maybe they witnessed him dying. Strange they didn't see if he was okay. Another couple who saw him from 7:30 p.m. to 8 p.m., during which time the streetlights had come on. The couple recounted that they did not see him move during the half an hour in which he was in view, although they did have the impression that his position had changed. And it still should have went up and checked on him. Maybe could have saved his life. Although they commented between themselves that it was odd that he was not reacting to the mosquitoes exactly, so check if he's okay. They had thought it more likely that he was drunk or asleep. Still check on him though, shit. And thus did not investigate further. One of the witnesses told the police she observed a man looking down at the sleeping man from the top of the steps that led to the beach. Witnesses said the body was in the same position when the police viewed it. Another witness came forward in 1959 and reported to the police that he and 3 others had seen a well-dressed man carrying another man on his shoulders along Sumerton Park Beach the night before the body was found. A police report was made by Detective Don O'Doherty. According to pathologist John Burton Cleland, the man was of Britisher appearance and thought to be aged 40 to 45. He was in top physical condition. He was 180 centimeters tall, 5 foot 11 inches, with gray eyes, fair to ginger-colored hair, slightly gray around the temples, with broad shoulders and a narrow waist, hands and nails that showed no sign of manual labor, big and little toes that met in a wedge shape, like those of a dancer or someone who wore boots with pointed toes. He also had pronounced high calf muscles consistent with people who regularly wore boots or shoes with high heels or performed ballet. I used to box, and you're always bounding back and forth on your toes with narrowish shoes on. So that's just a little food for thought, too. He was dressed in a white shirt, a red, white, and blue tie, brown trousers, socks and shoes, a brown knitted pullover, and a fashionable gray and brown double-breasted jacket of reportedly American tailoring. All labels on his clothes had been removed. Smart. And he had no hat, unusual for the 1940s, or no wallet. He was clean-shaven and carried no identification, which led police to believe he'd committed suicide. Quite possible. Finally, his dental records were not able to be matched to any known person. An autopsy was conducted, and the pathologist estimated the time of death to be around 2 a.m. on December 1st. The heart was of normal size and normal in every way. Small vessels, not commonly observed in the brain, were easily discernible with congestion. There was congestion of the pharynx, and the gullet was covered with whitening of superficial layers of mucus, with a patch of ulceration in the middle of it. The stomach was deeply congested. There was congestion in the first half of the small intestine. There was blood mixed with food in the stomach. That's not good. Both kidneys were congested, and the liver contained a great excess of blood in the vessels. Liver shots, maybe? So maybe like a beating? The spleen was strikingly large, about 3 times the normal size. There was destruction of the center of the liver lobes revealed under the microscope. Acute gastrous hemorrhage, excessive congestion of the liver and spleen, and congestion to the brain. Sorry I mispronounced most of that, most likely, because I am not a doctor, and those are some big words. But, hopefully you could understand. If you want to take a, proper read, the link to the source will be in the description below. His autopsy also showed his last meal was pasta, eaten a few hours before his death, but tests failed to reveal any foreign substances in his body. The pathologist, Dr. Dwyer, concluded, "I am quite convinced the death could not have been natural. The suggested poisons were either barbiturates or sleeping pills, although the poison remains the prime suspicion. His food was not believed to be the source. Other than that, the coroner was unable to reach a conclusion as to the man's identity, the cause of death, or whether the man seen alive at Sumerton Beach on the evening of November 30th was the same man, as nobody had seen his face at the time. The body was then embalmed on the 10th of December in 1948, after the police were unable to get a positive identification. The police said this was the first time they knew that such an action was needed. A suitcase at Adeline Rail Station was found on the 14th of January, 1949. The suitcase was brown and the labels had been removed, which had been checked into the station's cloakroom after 11 a.m. on the 30th of November, 1948. The case was believed to be owned by the man on the beach. In the case were a red checked dressing gown, a size 7 red pair of slippers, 4 pairs of underpants, pajamas, shaving items, a light brown pair of trousers with sand in the cuffs, an electrician's screwdriver, a table knife cut down into a short, sharp instrument, a pair of scissors with sharpened points, a small square of zinc thought to have been used as a protective sheath for the knife and scissors, and a stenciling brush as used by third officers on merchant ships for stenciling cargo. Yeah, so maybe a sailor. Also in the suitcase was a thread card of Barber brand, orange waxed thread of unusual type. Not available in Australia. So a thread of clothing or something from something that wasn't available in Australia. Interesting. So maybe he did travel a lot, so maybe he could be a sailor. The thread or material that was found in the suitcase was the same that was used to repair the lining in the pockets of the trousers the dead man was wearing. All identifying marks on the clothing had been removed, but police found the name T. Kane on a tie, Kane on a laundry bag, and Kane on a singlet, along with 3 dry cleaning marks. 1171-7, 4393-7, and 3053-7. The investigators believed that whoever removed the clothing tags overlooked these 3 items or purposely left Kane tags on the clothes, knowing Kane was not the dead man's name. With wartime rationing still enforced, clothing was difficult to acquire at the time. Although it was very common practice to use name tags, it was also common when buying second-hand clothing to remove the tags of previous owners. What was unusual was that there was no spare socks found in the case, and no correspondence. Although police found pencils and unused letter stationery, a search concluded that no T. Kane was missing in any English-speaking country, and nationwide circulation of the dry cleaning marks also provided fruitlessness. All that could be obtained from the suitcase was the front jest and the feather stitching on a coat found in the case, indicating it had been manufactured in America. The coat had not been imported, indicating the man had been to America or bought it from someone of a similar size who had been. Police checked incoming train records and believed the man had arrived in Adeline Rail Station by overnight train from either Melbourne, Sydney, or Port Augusta. They theorized he had showered and shaved at the adjacent city baths, although they did not find any bath tickets in his luggage or body, before returning to the rail station to purchase a ticket for the 10:50 a.m. train to Henley Beach, which, for whatever reason, he did not board. He immediately checked his suitcase at the station cloakroom before leaving the station and catching a city bus to Glenelg. Although named City Baths, this center was not a public bathing facility, but rather a public swimming pool. The railway station and bathing facilities were adjacent to the station cloaking room, which itself was adjacent to the station's southern exit onto North Terrace. The city's baths on King William Street were accessed from the station's northern exit via a laneway. There is no record of the station's bathroom facilities being unavailable on the day he arrived. Interesting. An inquest was held into the man's death, conducted by coroner Thomas Erskine Cleland. This happened a few days following the discovery of the body, but it was adjourned until the 17th of June, 1949. As the investigating pathologist, Cleland re-examined the body and made a number of discoveries that were missed the first time around. He noted that the man's shoes were remarkably clean and appeared to have been recently polished, rather than in the condition expected of a man who had been apparently walking and wandering around Cleveland all day. He also stated that this evidence fitted in with the theory that the body may have been brought to Sumerton Park Beach after the man's death, according to the lack of evidence of vomiting and convulsions, which are the two main reactions to poison. Cleland speculated, as none of the witnesses could positively identify the man they saw the previous night as the same person discovered the next morning, there remained the possibility the man had died elsewhere and had been dumped. He stressed that this was purely speculation, as all witnesses believed it was definitely the same person, as the body was in the same place and laying in the same distinctive position. And as I said a few times before, they were not able to identify the body, even in the second autopsy or whatnot. Now, if you made it this far, I don't know if you remember the little piece of paper that was found in his pocket. But there's a piece of paper found in his pocket of his pants that said Tama Shud, which is from a book in a library. The public library officials called in somebody to translate the meaning of the text, and as I said earlier, it means ended or finished. And this was found on the last page of Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. I horribly mispronounced that. The paper's Verso side was blank. The police conducted a nationwide search of Australia to find a copy of the book that had a similarly blank Verso. A photograph of the scrap of paper was released to the press, to see if it's recognized, eh? The book was located due to the police releasing the details. A man showed the police a 1941 edition of Edward Fitzgerald's 1859 translation of the book, published by Whitcomb and Toombs in Christchurch in New Zealand. So, one of the lead detectives, Detective Sergeant Leon Leon, who led the initial investigation, would protect the privacy of witnesses using pseudonyms. And the pseudonym of the man who found the book that he used was Ronald Francis, and he has never been officially identified. Interesting. But they're not entirely sure how the book came to be found by this Francis. So there's a couple of speculations that the book was found a couple weeks prior to the discovery of the body. But the theme of the book is that one should live the life to the fullest and have no regrets when it ends. Kind of ironic. The subject of the poem led the police and investigators to theorize that the man had possibly committed suicide, although no other evidence corroborated this theory. The book was missing the words Tamashud on the last page, as I mentioned, which had a blank reserve. A microscopic test indicated that the piece of paper was from the page torn from the book. In the back of the book were faint indentations representing 5 lines of text in capital letters. The second line had been struck out, a fact considered significant due to its similarities to the 4th line and the possibility that it represented an error in encryption. The inscription was WRGOABABD. The one that was crossed out is MLIAOI. Another one is WTBIMPANETP, a space with a symbol. MLIABOAIAQC, and then another is ITTMTSAMSTGAB. Interesting. So there's obviously been a number of attempts to decode whatever it's been, whatever that means, but all of them have been unsuccessful. So a telephone number was found in the back of a book belonging to a nurse named Jessica Ellen Jo Thomas. She said her mother may have known the dead man, and she was also interviewed on 60 Minutes in 2002. She used to live 400 meters in a suburb from where the body was found. Interesting. So, relatively close. I wonder, well, she knew it happened, but, well, according to the news and whatnot. But that is interesting, and probably quite a coincidence. Who knows? The suburb's name is Mosley St. Gleegland. I am pronouncing those horribly wrong. My bad, I made a mix-up. Her daughter Kate was in a television interview in 2014 with Channel 9's 60 Minutes. My bad. But, somebody wrote a book on the case, Greg Fleetus, and he stated when he interviewed her in 2002 that she was being evasive or she just didn't want to talk about it. That's interesting. In 1949, Jessica did request to the police that they not keep a permanent record of her name or release her details to third parties, as it would be embarrassing and harmful to her reputation to be linked to such a case. Understandable, but a little suspicious. The police did agree, a discussion that hampered a later investigation. Interesting. They say that Thompson's real name, which I guess Thompson is a pseudonym for her name, was considered important because it may be a decryption key for the perpetrated code. Interesting. That is interesting. I've never heard of something like that. When she was showing a plaster mold or whatnot of the dead man by detectives or whatnot, she said that she could not identify the person. That is, yeah, fair enough. According to Leon, He described her reaction upon seeing the cast as completely taken aback, to the point of giving the appearance that she was about to faint. In an interview many years later, Paul Lawson, a technician who made the cast and was present when Thomas viewed it, said that after looking at the bust, she immediately looked away and would not look at it again. I don't know, she could have been taken aback by how maybe grotesque it looked, or maybe she definitely knew who it was. My bet's on probably knew who it was and is trying to keep quiet. I don't know. What do you guys think? She also said when she was working at Royal North Shore Hospital in Sydney during World War II, she had owned a copy of the book, and she gave it to an Australian Army lieutenant named Alf Boxall. They speculate that Boxall could have been the dead man. But in July 1949, Boxall was found in Sydney, and the final page of his copy of the book was intact, with the words Tamashud still in place. But yes, as you can imagine, there's been many suspected identifications. None have been fruitful. The investigation has been open and shut multiple times, and there's also a bunch of theories. I think most likely it's a spy theory. It makes sense, well, to me. But yeah, probably someone wanting to keep this man quiet, and they got away with the perfect murder. And it's very interesting indeed. So, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. So that is the case of the Sumerton man. Thank you for listening to this episode on the Murder House Radio Show. I hope you have a good rest of your Friday, or whenever you are listening to this. Check out the social medias and the sources in the description below. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Once you hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification and select all notifications if you are listening on YouTube. If you are listening on a podcasting platform, hit follow. Leave your suggestions for future episodes in the comments. See you next episode. This is your host, X, signing off.